Okay, we'll make another attempt. So 32a1. So he said if someone is anointing himself with tu'uma that is impure or tu'uma that is pure, he has to pay fifth. And if he consumed that very fifth, he has to pay another fifth. So the law is that one who inadvertently consumes tu'uma must repay with produce. Because we asked the question how he should pay. Does he pay by volume, or he pays? Either he pays back with produce, or he pays with money. Either he pays according to what he consumed with produce, or he has to pay the value with money. So in any case in which the item consumed is worth in the beginning, at the time of consumption, it was worth 4 zuzim, and at the end, the time of payment was only a single zuz.
Deflation.
Yeah, deflation, or decrease in value.
Right.
Depreciation in value.
Okay.
Loiti boiloch, you have no basis for inquiry. For it is certain that even if one generally makes restitution according to volume, in this case he must repay according to the value of the teruma as it was in the beginning. The loy gora migazon, for he is in this respect no different than an ordinary thief, and thus must repay according to the value of the teruma at the moment it was consumed. That none. All thieves must repay according to the value of the stolen item at the moment of its theft. Since one who misappropriates teruma is a thief, he too must repay what the teruma was worth when he stole it. In this case, there are no grounds for inquiry. Kiti baloch, when do you have, what was the inquiry? The inquiry was he pays with produce or he pays with money. Kiti baloch, when do you have basis for inquiry? When there was appreciation, which the item consumed is worth only 1 zuz in the beginning, but is worth 4 zuzim at the end. In the beginning of consumption or the end of consumption, the time of stealing was worth 1 zuz. The time that he decided to pay back, it's now worth 4 zuzim. What is the law? Lefi mida mishalem. It's like someone who steals from a jewelry store. He steals 5 pounds of gold. Assuming 5 pounds of gold is worth $1 million. But when he wants to pay back, one day he decides to do tshuva, he wants to pay back, and the 5 pounds of gold is worth now $4 million. Should he pay 4 or should he pay 1? He said you go by the time of stealing. Fi mida mishalem. Da'omar lei giriv ochal giriv mishalem. In which case we say to him, one who ate a particular measure of teruma must repay with the equivalent measure, even if the item eaten has increased in value in the meantime. Or perhaps we say that one repays according to the value of what he consumed. So what does it mean? The Omar lei girivo ochal girivo meshalem. Girivo ochal girivo meshalem. The Omar lei, that's how you read it. The Omar lei, in which case we say to him, girivo ochal girivo meshalem. One who ate a particular measure of teruma must repay with equivalent measure, even if the item eaten has increased in value in the meantime. So you ate 5 apples, give me 5 apples back. I don't care that the 5 apples now worth much more money than before. You ate 5, give me 5 apples. Or Dilma Lefidor Mishalem. Or perhaps we say that one repays according to the value of what he consumed. You consumed $100, give him back $100. Was it bezuza ochal, bezuza mishalem? In which case we would say to him, one who ate zuz worth of teruma must repay with zuz worth regardless of its value. So, seemingly we don't have a clear answer yet which way we should go. Does he pay with food or he pays with money?
If he decides to pay with food, and if the market went up, he needs to buy the apples, and the apples now is high price. So
Correct. But that's his problem. You can say, well, you ate 5 apples, give him back 5 apples.
So it should be apples.
If somebody takes away, steals your car, and he decided one day he wants to buy you back same car, but somehow your car is now worth much more money. It's his problem. You took that car, give it back.
So according to the item, not according to the value.
That's one way of looking at it. But then there's another way. It says no. He took your car. It was worth 20,000, and you need to give it back 20,000, not what it is now. It's what I took a worth. So he ate truma that is worth 5 zuzim. Give him back 5 zuzim. Hi, it's worth now 10 zuzim.
No problem.
So Omar Rav Yosef Tashma come here proof from the following Braita. Ochal gorois v'shir lo tmorim. One ate dried figs of Truma, but repaid the coin with dates. He ate figs, he's now giving back the coin dates. The Gemara says, Tova olav bracha. May a blessing come upon him. Why? Because he acted righteously.
Improve.
I guess the dates were more expensive than the figs. This is understandable if you say that one who inadvertently eats teruma repays according to value. For it is on account that the Braita proclaimed, may a blessing come upon him. Dochel grivo the gorois the shavizuza, v'kayol grivo the tmorim the shaviarpo. Why he should be blessed? This guy eating figs and giving back. He ate figs of truma and giving back dates. So the Gemara tells you because he ate a measure of dried fig that is worth only 1 zuz, and he is giving back to the Kohen an equal measure of dates which is worth 4 zuzim. So he is certainly worthy of a blessing. But if you say that one who eats teruma repays according to value, if he ate 1 zuz, he pays back 1 zuz. Why is he being blessed? He ate figs worth a zuz and repaid with dates worth a zuz. So we have to say that there was that he's paying more. There is nothing in this act to merit a blessing, since the Braita is considering him worthy of a blessing. It evidently shows us that repayment for inadvertent consumption, when you're paying back for truma that you ate b'shegeg, is according to value. Abai says no. One who eats teruma inadvertently actually repays according to value. So why did they say tov of bracha? Why he just gave exactly back what he ate? Why he says tov of bracha? The orchil midei the lekofitz ales vine. It is not because he repaid with an item of greater value, but because he ate a thing that the buyers does not leap after. Yet we paid with an item that buyers do leap after, for this is a worthy of blessing. Meaning he gave him a product that is more needed, more demandable. What does it mean the buyer leap over?
So wait, so the figs are more desirable? No, the
The
dates,
dates were more desirable, so that's why we're praising him. Not that he gave him something of greater value monetary wise. He gave him something that is more rare, but the value is still the same.
Dates are more rare than figs?
Maybe back then it was something that was a little more
Yeah, baby.
marketable commodity. There was more of a rare commodity. But trees wise, it's easier to have figs than to harvest and to grow. Dates are much
You
harder.
have to cover them and
Dates are much more complicated. You need to have special soil.
you have
They're very tall.
on the trees.
These are fake palm trees. They're not dates trees.
Wow,
All the trees that you see over here, they're not producing any fruits.
true.
Somebody eats truma of chametz on Pesach inadvertently, so he ate two things. He did two wrong things. He ate truma and chametz on Pesach. He has to pay keren v'chemesh. He has to pay the principal and he has to pay 1/5. If you say that one who eats truma inadvertently repays according to volume, this ruling is good. But if you say that he has to pay according to the value, chametz didn't have any value on Pesach. If you follow the food, he ate food, therefore he pays with food, fine. But if you're going to the value, chametz has no value on Pesach.
Even the truma of chametz is
Right?
So why is he paying?
But since one is forbidden to derive benefit from it on Pesach, it is considered to be of no worth.
Right.
Accordingly, one should not be required to pay for consuming it. Why then does our Mishnah require one who eats it inadvertently to make restitution? Evidently, the Mishnah holds that truma is repaid not according to value, but according to volume.
Yeah, but all right.
It's a proof that it goes by volume. You ate truma, X amount, regardless of its worth, you got to bring X amount. You ate pound of truma, bring back a pound of truma.
Let's see where they go with this.
The Gemara says, yes, according to our Mishnah, chametz is deemed to be of value even during Pesach. How many? Whose opinion is it? Rabbi Menashe Amitay, who stated elsewhere that chametz is permitted for benefit during Pesach. Since it may be used, it has worth. Accordingly, even if one makes restitution for truma according to value, one will be liable to repay for eating truma of chametz, since it too is an article of value. There's value to it. So the inquiry cannot be resolved from our Mishnah.
To have benefit of chametz during Pesach is only according to
Obviously,
only him, yeah.
only him. Yeah. So the Gemara challenges the assumption that our Mishnah follows Rabbi Menashe. Yochem, a Seifa, let's look at the end of the Mishnah. If he eats deliberately, he is exempt from repayment of the principal and from repayment of the teruma's value as firewood. If a Mishnah follows Rabbi Menashe, why is he potu? Why does the Mishnah say that he is exempt from repayment of the principal and of the teruma value as firewood? He should be required to reimburse the Kohen for the value of teruma he consumed. So the Tanya of Yom would treat Yom Kippur like the Shabbos in regard to exempting from repayment one who incurs a monetary obligation while violating its prohibition. Rabbi Menashe holds that one who, through the performance of a given act, incurs the penalty of death, whether death by human hands or whether chorus, a form of death by the hands of heaven. Accordingly, even if teruma of chametz is deemed to be of monetary value, even if we say that teruma of chametz has monetary value, Rabbi Menashe Amitay will exempt one who deliberately consumes it from reimbursing the kohen, since the deliberate transgression of the prohibition against eating teruma carries the penalty of death at the hands of heaven. That's what we said. Remember, we said it yesterday. That he's liable to cover, so therefore,
Does it have to be the money?
yeah, kill with the rabbi. So the Mishnah can very well be in accordance with the opinion of Yisrael. The more returns to its inquiry regarding repayment according to volume or according to value, and states, Ketsanoi, the question is actually a matter of dispute between Tanoim. On Pesach, he's exempt from repayment of the principal and from repayment of the turuma's value as firewood. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. However, renders him liable to repay in a case of inadvertent consumption. But what benefit does the Kohen have from the teruma that one who eats it should be obligated to repay? Since the teruma being chametz is forbidden for benefit, has no value. One who eats, even inadvertently, should therefore not be liable. How does it help the Kohen that you're paying him back with chametz? You can't eat it on Pesach. Says, I can ask you the same thing. Rabbi Akiva said, no, Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Akiva, why should you pay teruma if you ate teruma tmeh? Why should you pay back? Because the Kohen cannot eat the teruma tmeh anyway. Also, he cannot benefit from it. It says teruma tmeh he's not allowed to eat, but he can still use it for fire, to make fire. So you will say regarding this case of one who eats teruma of chametz, he doesn't have the permission to consume it, and he doesn't have the permission to use it for fire, because chametz. In this case, since the teruma has no value at all, one is certainly not obligated to repay. So, what is it similar to? The terumas tutim anovim shenitmeo. To a case of mulberries or grapes of teruma that became tameh. Certain type of berries or grapes became tameh. You cannot use it for eating. No consumption. You cannot eat it also for fire, to burn it, for which a non-Kohen therefore need not make restitution in the event that he inadvertently consumes it. Likewise, with regard to of chametz, since the Kohen may derive no benefit from it, one who consumes it need not reimburse him. There's no need for reimbursement. Regular teruma, you say, okay, he can use it for fire, so therefore you damage the Kohen, pay him back. But the tutim v'anovim, mulberries and grapes, if it's tameh, the Kohen cannot eat it, and he cannot use it for fire either. So there's no need to pay. So the same thing with chametz. If you're not allowed to benefit from it, you're not allowed to eat it, what's the point of the guy paying you back?
If you return after Pesach, it's not an option.
No, we're dealing with payment on Pesach. But it's also a question if you're paying after Pesach, and we say that we follow the time of that you stole, we go by the time that you stole. The time that you stole was worth nothing. Why should you even pay? So it says we're dealing with a case, someone who separated Truma, and the Truma became Chametz. Was not Chametz and became Chametz. However, if one during Pesach separated Truma from produce that already was Chametz, all agree that it does not become consecrated as Tu'um. So on Pesach, if you are separating teruma that is chametz, everyone agrees that it's not holy. But if you bought teruma before Pesach and became chametz on Pesach, it's a different story. Tanya Ida, is a kodesh. Posuk state, if a man will eat of the holy teruma inadvertently, he shall add its fifth to it, and shall repay the holy to the Kohen. Dova olis kodesh. It implies that one is liable to repay only if what he ate was something whose like is fit to become holy. Something that can become holy. Okay? This excludes one who inadvertently eats teruma of chametz and Pesach. He doesn't have to pay back, doesn't have to repay for the teruma, and it is also potur, he doesn't have to pay the firewood. Rabbi Menashe says that he needs to repay. Amar le Rabbi Menashe says to Rabbi Menashe, granted that you disagree with the exposition, but even so, you should agree that he is exempt from repayment. For what benefit does the Kohen then have from the teruma? That one who eats it should be liable to repay, since the teruma is forbidden for benefit, it has no value. One who eats it inadvertently should therefore not be liable. Amar lo Rabbi Lozer Chismo le Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. What benefit if somebody eats teruma tmeah? What's the purpose of repaying? Nonetheless, one who consumes it inadvertently is required to reimburse the Kohen. Likewise, in the case of terumas chometz, one who consumes it has to pay. The same way that teruma tmeah you have to pay, even though the Kohen has no benefit in teruma tmeah. It's impure teruma. What are you going to do with it? But you have to pay, so the same thing with chometz. Terumas chometz, you got to pay back. Omar Lei, so Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov said to Rabbi Lezer ben Chisma, Lo amot b'teruma tmeah b'sham v'sashon. No, if you will say that a non-Kohen on any of the days of the year is liable for consuming teruma that is tamei, zar, non-Kohen, eat teruma during the year, is liable, right?
Yeah.
But he's eating teruma tmeah. He's not eating regular teruma. He's eating teruma that is not pure. Although the Kohen is not allowed to eat that teruma, but he's allowed to use it for firewood. Right? Teruma tmeah, he can use it for firewood. So you took away from him that possibility. So comes Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer ben Chisma replied to him, Af bezor, even in the case of terumas chometz, yesh lo yivo eter asokah, the Kohen has permission to either burn it or to benefit from it some other fashion. Shim rotza Kohen meritzu lifnei kalbei, for had the Kohen wished, he could have placed it before his dog to eat. In the Chidush Haran explains the difference between terumas chometz and teruma tmeah, and in terms of which benefit you're allowed to have from terumas chometz or from teruma tmeah. Anyhow, over here it says, for had the Kohen wished, he could have placed it before his dog to eat. Or masika tachas tavshilo, or burn it for fuel under his pot of food. Since one is permitted to derive benefit from chametz, it is deemed to be of value. One who consumes teruma of chametz on Pesach, therefore, is obligated to reimburse the Kohen. Amar Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Kulu Svilo Chametz Pesach Asuno. All these rabbis are agreeing that you're not allowed to benefit from chametz on Pesach. Meaning they disagree with Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Uveo pligi, and this is the machlokes the Rabbi Akiva sovar lefi dam mishal. Rabbi Akiva says we're going by the value. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri sovar lefi midam mishal. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says you're going by the volume. You're paying with volume. Pshita, the Gemara says, we know that this is the machlokes. Ma'od the tema. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, you would think that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri ki Rabbi Akiva svira holds like Rabbi Akiva. That says he has to pay by the value. Also, and the reason why here he obligates him to pay, mishum de sovarle, because he holds ki Rabbi Yossi Aglili. He follows Rabbi Yossi Aglili. The Omar Chametz Pesach mutar ban. No, maybe Rabbi Akiva follows Rabbi Yossi Aglili that says that Chametz and Pesach you're allowed to benefit from Chametz. Kamashma, and comes the Gemara to tell you, to clarify that Rabbi Akiva does not follow Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That Chametz and Pesach mutar bano. Ve'imar achinami im ken adar leRabbi Yochanan ben Nuri leRabbi Akiva ki echid im adar leRabbi Elazar ben Chisma leRabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. He says, let Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri respond to Rabbi Akiva's challenge in the same manner that Rabbi Elazar Chisma responds to the challenge of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov by saying one is permitted to derive benefit from Chametz since he does not do so. This is evidently not the basis of his ruling. So the Gemara cites a dispute regarding the minimum amount of truma one must eat inadvertently to be liable to repay. How much truma you need to eat to be liable to repay? Okay, forget truma tmeya, truma chametz. How much truma I need to eat to be liable for repayment? Tanu Rabban Orche Kazayis truma shan kemechem. You eat kazayis, you gotta pay. Abba Sholem ad sheshava pruta. Abba Shol says no. You need to have shava pruta, not kazayit. It needs to be value of a pruta.
If the kazayit values the pruta, how do we know that there's enough? Kazayit of something very expensive should value a pruta.
Right. So if you ate shava pruta, according to Abba Shol, if you ate less than kazayit, because the value is more than pruta, therefore you have to pay. What is the Tanakama's reason for linking repayment to consumption of an olive's value? If a man will eat truma bishgogo inadvertently, he shall add, right? He has to pay fifth. Beside the principle. It thereby teaches that this obligation depends upon an act of eating. And the rule is that an act of eating is deemed of legal significance only if it is performed with an olive's volume of food. One who eats less than an olive volume of truma, however, is not legally considered to have eaten, and therefore will not be liable to repay the principal plus a fifth. Abba Shol, my time, what is the reasoning of Abba Shol? He learns it from another pasuk. Tanakama learns it from Ishkir Chal Kodesh Bishgago, a man who will eat of holy truma inadvertently. Abba Shol says, Omar Krove no son. The pasuk says, and he shall repay. And the rule is that an act of repayment is not of legal significance if performed with less than the value of pruta. So it follows that inadvertent consumption of less than pruta's worth of teruma cannot render one liable to repayment. So it says, so Abba Shol learns it from Venosan. Venosan means pruta, and therefore he doesn't have to pay if it's less than pruta. Regarding the opinion of the other Tana, Abba Shol, but it is written, if a man will eat. What does Abba Shol do with the words yoichal? Which seemingly indicates that the liability to repayment is contingent upon consumption, not the pruta, rather olive's volume. We don't go by value, we go by volume. So Abba Shol, the Gemara answers that Abba Shol can respond. It comes to exclude one who damages truma from repayment of an additional fifth. One who damages teruma from repayment of an additional fifth. Since it is needed to teach this law, it cannot be used to make liability conditional upon consumption of an olive's value. So it tells you no, that yoichal is used for mazik. It comes to exclude one who damages truma. So what does Tanakama is going to do with the pasuk of Abba Shaul that says venosan, and venosan means that he has to give something that is worth of pruta. It says Tanakama would use it for something else. He would use the word venosan for dovo haroi liyos kodesh. The pasuk is needed to teach that one must repay with something fit to become holy. It therefore cannot be employed. You cannot use venosan to teach me there needs to be shava pruta, to make liability contingent upon consumption of a pruta's worth truma. So each one explains why he doesn't learn it from the other rabbi's verse. Rabbi Tanakama learns it from Ish ki yochal kodesh bishgogo, meaning that I follow the achila, the volume that he ate, and he ate kazait, he has to pay. And comes Abba Shaul says no, it says venosan, and venosan means it has to be shava pruta. What is Abba Shaul going to do with yoichal? Says no, yoichal that Tanakama is use it, I use it for something else. I learned from that pasuk something else. What do I learn from yoichal? So I tell you, I learned about mazik, that mazik doesn't pay. If somebody damages, it says over here that if one who damages teruma from repayment of an additional fifth. It says in number 10, from the phrase, if a man will eat, ish ki yoichal, ve'ish ki yoichal kodesh bishgov, if a man will eat the holy, we learn, according to Abba Shaul, that only one who eats teruma is liable to an additional fifth. But one who damages teruma, there's a difference between eating teruma and damaging teruma. But one who merely destroys truma in some other manner, however, is not liable to an additional fifth. He doesn't have to pay the additional fifth. If he, according to Abba Shaul, if he ate truma,
he had benefits, so
he has to pay additional fifth. But if he destroyed truma, he doesn't have to pay the additional fifth.
Because he didn't have benefits.
He doesn't write the Rambam discusses it, but the Gemara and Yuma, but he doesn't mention it over here. What's the reason? That if a mazik, someone damages, doesn't have to pay.
Maybe you're turning the. This is so. I'm freezing.
It's cold.
I didn't turn it on.
I know. Rabbi came. I thought he was turning it like not so cold.
I think it's set on 74. 74.
Well,
Mess with it.
and
Oh,
Turn it to 70. It says full set on 73. I'll do 75.
okay, thanks. I understand. It's like blowing like crazy. It's cold.
Rabbi, Rashi discusses every subject in the Torah, every subject. Wow, everything he discusses, he explains like.
You know what happened when his daughter, when she died, then his daughters took over and also had Rosh blood, but he wasn't.
Son-in-laws, right?
Yeah.
So he discusses everything.
You have Chumash, the Navi, the Gemara, yeah.
Wow. And he died young, right?
I don't know what age Rashi passed away. I don't think he died very old. I don't think he died very young.
Okay.
Anyhow, so it says over here, and somebody eats less than an olive volume of truma, he has to pay the principal, as would any thief. But this is pochos mikazais, less than a kazait, less than an olive oil. But he does not repay the additional fifth. So he doesn't pay the additional fifth. So meaning the additional fifth only kicks in once you eat kazais. Less than a kazait he has to pay back, but not the additional. If the case is one in which the truma does not have the value of a pruta, then one who eats it should not be obligated to repay the principal either. If I follow by pruta, it doesn't have pruta, so why did it pay anything? And if it has pruta, then he should also pay the chomesh, the additional fifth. You understand the logic of it? Up till now, we spoke of a case of someone who ate kazait of truma. Okay? And the question was, if he has to pay, according to Abba Shaul, he has to pay according to if he ate pruta. According to Tanakama, he has to pay if he ate kazait. So the Gemara says a different case now. A case of someone who ate less than a kazait. No, less than a kazait. They say he has to pay what he ate, but doesn't have to pay chomesh. Doesn't have to pay fifth. So the Gemara challenging it. The Gemara says, 1 second, if he ate less than a kazait, why does he even have to pay anything? And if he ate less than a kazait that was worth more than pruta, then why shouldn't he pay the chomesh? Not only that he should pay, he should also pay the chomesh.
Okay.
The Gemara explains the Olam Deis B'Shar Pruta. He says, actually, we're dealing with a case where the Truma has the volume of Pruta, but since it does not have the volume of an olive, one repays the principal but does not repay the fifth. So it says, even though it's Shavuot Pruta, he has to pay what he took, but not the additional fifth because there was no kazait. So the liability to an additional fifth only when does it kick in?
More than kazait.
Consumption of olive volume of truma. So he has to have kazait. Not more, even
to pay the fifth.
Yeah. And one kameder of Papa, the rabbi stated before, Papa had the show. This is not in the view of Abba Shaul. The Abba Shaul, Omar Kevin Shesh B'Shar Pruta Afagav Delay, because Abba Shaul says, I don't care if he didn't eat kazais. As long as it has Shavuot Pruta, he has to pay. One must repay the principal plus 1/5, according to Abba Shaul. Omar Rav Papa Filutem Abba Shaul Abba Shaul Tate Boy. You say that the Baita is in accordance with Abba Shaul's view. Why? Because Abba Shaul actually requires both conditions to render one liable to repay. You can say that he requires both conditions. What is both condition? Pruta and kazai. That the truma consumed be worth a pruta, and that it have the volume of an olive. The Baita could very well be in accordance with Abba Shaul. Umi by Abba Shaul, is it true that Abba Shaul requires to have both pruta and a kazai? V'atanya tinan Abba Shaul leimer imesh b'shar pruta. Abba Shaul says, if one inadvertently eats teruma that has the value of pruta, chayav b'tashlum is liable to repayment of the principal plus 1/5. As shein b'shar pruta, but if one eats teruma that does not have the value of pruta, eino chayav b'tashlum is not liable to such repayment. Amulei lo mushar pruta ela inyam ela bilvad, aval teruma eino chayav shebukazayis. He says, When did they say Shava Pruta will render one liable to a payment of an additional 50 regarding Me'ila? Except with regard to repayment for Me'ila. Me'ila, it says in 18, unlawful benefit derived from sacred property. Unlawful benefit from sacred property. One who inadvertently derives such benefit must atone with an asham offering and must repay the principal plus one additional fifth to the temple treasury.
Can you commit Mehila eating the tzum of the Kohen, or only from the Beit HaMikdash?
Yeah, it's a classical case of Me'ila, benefiting from the sacred.
But sacred from the Beit HaMikdash, this is going from Beit HaMikdash, or this is for the Kohen, and now I'm using it. This is also Me'ila?
Well, what the Kohen has is also sacred property. It's also considered Kodesh. But it's not worth it, because look how much he has to pay. He has to give an asham first to atone for his sin, principal and fifth. So it's, economically it doesn't make sense to do that. Regarding Teruma, so when it comes to Me'ila, is not liable until it's called Teruma is liable regardless, even if it's less than Kazai. But when it comes to Teruma, they agree one is not liable unless the Teruma has the volume of an olive. Consumption of lesser measure of Teruma, however, even if worth a pruta, will not render one liable to an additional 50. Now, if Habashol does in fact require both conditions for liability, then this price's case must perforce be one in which the teruma consumed had both the value of an olive as well as the value of a pruta. Accordingly, his disputants in this Braita should have raised a different objection as follows. Since the teruma has the value of an olive, one is liable even if it does not have the value of pruta. Since the teruma has the volume of an olive, one is liable even if it does not have the value of a pruta. If it has kazais, he's liable even if it's not worth, even if this kazais is not worth pruta. Since they instead object to Abashol's having required an additional fifth in the absence of an olive's value, it is clear that he holds that the only condition required is that the teruma be worth a pruta. That's the only condition to Abashol. He doesn't care about the kazais. Evidently, Abashol does not require both conditions, contrary to the assertion of Rav Papa. Tuvta, the Baita is indeed a refutation of Rav Papa's assertion. Rav Papa himself later retracted his statement. The Gemara will now prove the fact that Rav Papa's retraction. The Gemara will now prove the fact of Rav Papa's retraction by citing a lengthy Amarek discussion concerning a certain Baita. Rav Papa's contribution to this discussion will prove that he has retracted. The Gemara commences by citing the Baita. Tanya v'chol bishgogo pat lemezid has been taught in a Baita. The pasuk states regarding the asham offering mandated for one who commits me'ila. If a person commits me'ila and transgresses inadvertently, he shall bring his asham to Hashem. Prat lemezid. This excludes one who deliberately transgresses the sin of me'ila. For only one who transgresses inadvertently is liable to an offering.
Mezid is correct. Meila, Mezid is correct.
Yeah. So Va'alo Dinu, so Gemara says one second, but what would this rule not be dictated by the following Kal V'Chemer argument? What's the Kal V'Chemer argument? if we find in the case of other commandments that although the Torah rendered one liable to Koros for transgressing them, it nonetheless exempts one who deliberately transgresses them from bringing an offering. Then in the case of Me'ilah, which carries no Koros penalty, but only the less severe penalty of death at the hands of heaven. You see, there's two different things between Koros and death at the hands of heaven. It sounds like they're similar, but it says, see note 30, why Koros is considered a more severe penalty than death at the hands of heaven, since its certainty is not. Koros is more severe than death at the hands of heaven because it carries the twofold penalty of premature death and childlessness, while death of heaven involves only premature death. Got it?
I think you don't get any Olam Haba if you've got Karas, that you're finished. You know, you're
But it seems like that's not what they're saying.
no, they're saying childlessness and
Premature death.
premature death,
It doesn't say anything about Olam Haba.
right?
Why are you adding?
That's what I heard.
Oh, heard this.
What is that?
Adding, like why are you adding more to the punishment
That's what I heard.
than it says? So Me'ilah doesn't have Koros. It has only death by heaven. Only. Death at the hands of heaven. Einodin shepotar samezid, is it not certain that the Kohen, it is not certain that the Torah exempted one who deliberately transgresses it from bringing an offering. What's the idea of offering? It says shegeg. If somebody did b'shegeg, he has to bring the Osham offering in the case of Truma, Ila. Lo, if you will say that a deliberate transgressor is exempt from an offering in the case of other commandments, for which the Torah did not render a transgressor liable to death at the hands of heaven. Will you say the same in the case of Me'ilah? For which the Torah did render a transgressor liable to death at the hands of heaven. Certainly not, for death at the hands of heaven may in fact be more severe penalty than a Koros. We accordingly could not derive a leniency pertaining to Me'ilah from the law carrying the mere penalty of Koros. What do we say about Shar Mitzvahs? What is Shar Mitzvahs? Other commandments. If you will say that a deliberate transgressor is exempt from an offering in the case of other commandments. Why? Because lo chiev b'hem misa. The Torah did not render a transgressor liable to death at the hands of heaven. But when it comes to Me'ilah, for which the Torah did render a transgressor liable to death at the hands of heaven, for death at the hands of heaven may in fact be more severe penalty than Koros. We accordingly could not derive a leniency pertaining to Me'ilah from the law carrying the mere penalty of Koros. It says in 29, for one could say that the reason other commandments are treated more leniently than Me'ilah with regard to bringing an offering is because of the leniency with regard to the type of death penalty they carry. The Torah therefore states, if a person commits Me'ilah, go inadvertently, to exclude one who deliberately transgresses the sin of Me'ilah from bringing an offering. So the Gemara begins the Amoraik discussion with Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak's question concerning this bite. This Tana in the beginning gives greater strength to chorus, implying that it is a greater severity than death at the hands of heaven. But in the end, gives greater strength to death at the hands of heaven by suggesting that it is perhaps the more severe of the two penalties. Seemingly, it appears to contradict himself. Which one is more severe? Karet or mitabidei shamayim? Which one is more severe? Amalei and Rav Chia bar Rav in response to Rav Menashe bar Yitzchak as follows. The right column on top, it says, this is what the Tana actually meant to say. The refutation of the Kavachim. Lo yomad v'sham mitzvah shekin lo yichir b'mita pochet mikazayis. Teimah b'meila shechiv bo misa pochet mikazayis. It says, no, the exemption of one who deliberately commits meila from bringing an offering cannot be derived from the exemption of one who deliberately transgress other commandments. For if you will say that a deliberate transgressor is exempt from an offering in the case of other commandments, not meila, sheken leichiv b'misa pochet mikazayis, for which the Torah did not render a transgressor liable to death for a transgression involving less than an olive volume. Time of Meila, will you say the same in the case of Meila? Shechiv b'misa pochet mikazayis, for which the Torah did render a transgressor liable to death for a transgression involving less than an olive volume. Certainly not, for just as Meila is more stringent than other commandments in this regard, that is liable to death, it may also be more stringent with regard to whether one who transgresses it deliberately must bring an offering. We therefore cannot derive a leniency pertaining to Meila from other commandments, but must expound it directly from a verse. The Tana by no means meant to suggest the death at the hands of heaven is more severe penalty than chorus, but was simply pointing out that Meila is stringent and that it carries the penalty of death. That's all he wanted to say. Meila is stringent in which way? That it carries the penalty of death, even for transgressions involving less than an olive's volume. Rav Menashe bar Yitzchak said to Rav Chia bar Rav, Tanuach daitecho shenachta daite. May your mind be at ease, for you have placed my mind at ease. Rav Chia bar Rav said to him, my nichusa, what ease can you then find with my interpretation? It is based, it is beset by a difficulty. The Rabba v'Rav Sheishes shodu beinago. For Rabba and Rav Sheishes have swung an axe at it. They demolished it by raising the following objection. Man shomat le'de'omar, who is that? Who is it that you have heard to have stated, Hazid b'meila b'miso, that one who deliberately committed meila is punished with death at the hands of heaven? Rabbi, it is Rabbi, the Tanya. For it has been taught in a baita, Hazid b'meila, if one deliberately committed meila. Rabbi says he is punished with death at the hands of heaven. The sages say he can be charged with transgression of scriptural warning, but he's not subject to death at heaven's hands.
Why you can't return, Rabbi?
So in 4 it says actually he's liable to malchus, lashes.
Rabbi, if you steal something from it, that it's said also, why you can return? Why you have to die?
He's talking about someone who does it amazing.
You know
what mazid means?
I want to do something like I propose.
No, I know the punishment and I'm still doing it. So what do you expect? It's like, you know the punishment.
I was wrong that time.
So then it was shegeg.
No. At that time I wanted to do, but then I think more before doing. I was wrong. I was wrong at the time.
So maybe he'll be able to change his hand, his mita b'da shomayim, the hands of heaven verdict. He can maybe change it. he does tshuva. But if someone is mazed and remains mazed, someone does it intentionally, and he says he continues to do it intentionally.
Doesn't change. Okay.
All right, so halacha is.
A person is permitted, in the laws of Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch writes, a person is permitted to carry a letter on Shabbos. It is not considered as muktzah. True, it is not fit to be used for its primary purpose, to be read. For example, when he knows that it does not involve his personal needs, in which instance it is forbidden for him to even look at it over, if it involves personal things, nevertheless it is fit to be used for another purpose. For example, you can use the letter to wrap around the opening of a flask, or the like. Even if this letter was brought to the person on Shabbos from beyond his Shabbos limits, it is not considered as muktzah, as will be explained in section 515. Even the person for whom the letter was brought from beyond the Shabbos limits may benefit from it on Shabbos and may use the letter for its primary purpose, to read it, if he does not know what is written in it. If it does not resemble other articles that are brought from outside the Shabbos limits, that the person on whose behalf they were bought is forbidden to benefit from until Saturday night. The rationale is that the prohibition against using such articles, using letters on Shabbos, is a decree lest one tell a goy to bring them for him from beyond the Shabbos limits. He tells the goy, the concerns, he might tell the goy to go outside of the Shabbos limits, outside of the town, and bring to him those letters. It is not relevant to enact such a safeguard regarding a letter. Moreover, this letter was not brought at all for the sake of the recipient. Instead, the sender sent it for his own purpose and not necessarily for the benefit of the recipient. There's many times that you get letters not for your benefit, it's for the benefit of someone who is sending you a bill. It's his benefit, not you. Even if it was sent for the sake of the Jewish recipient, nevertheless, if you're getting a check, for example, nevertheless, the non-Jew bringing it on Shabbos from outside the Shabbos limits intends to fulfill the mission with which he was charged by the sender and does not have the recipient in mind. The mailman does not have you in mind. The mailman has his paycheck in mind. The reason why he delivers the letter to you is because of someone who sent him. Someone sent him, not you.
Right.
This situation does not resemble one in which a Jew sent produce to a friend on Friday via a non-Jew, and the non-Jew was delayed and brought the produce on Shabbos, in which instance it is forbidden for the recipient to eat the fruit on Shabbos. This is not similar to it. The rationale for this prohibition is that the non-Jew thinks that the Jew for whom he is bringing the produce will partake of it on Shabbos. Indeed, it is for this reason that the goy is bringing the produce to the Jew. The goy is thinking, I'm bringing this produce to you because you're going to eat it on Shabbos. Hence, his intent in bringing it from the outside the Shabbos limit is for the recipient personal well-being. He knows you need it for Shabbos, so he's bringing it for you. For that reason, even though the non-Jew has his own self-interest in mind, he desires to receive his wage, the produce is forbidden to be eaten on Shabbos, as we explained in section 515. This is not the case with regard to a letter. Since the recipient personal well-being does not benefit on Shabbos from the actual substance of the letter. Even if you get a check, you're not benefiting yet. When bringing it from outside the Shabbos limits, I don't know, with check is an example of money, but a letter, You're not benefiting from it on Shabbos. When bringing it from outside the Shabbos limits, the goy intent is solely to carry out the desire of the Jew who sent it, or for his own sake to receive his wage. The non-Jew's intent is solely to carry out the desire of the Jew who sent it, or for his own sake to receive his wage, and not for the sake of the recipient. So he says there are two possible ways. There are two possible reasons why the mailman is delivering. Either to fulfill the will of the one who sent him, or to get paid, which is both interconnected. But he makes a difference between a letter that you receive on Shabbos and produce that you might receive on Shabbos. When you receive produce on Shabbos, the sender, not only the sender, but the messenger, the one who is delivering it to you, is thinking, oh, he probably needs it now, he needs it for Shabbos. So he has you in mind. But a letter, he doesn't have you in mind. And that's why he starts off the halacha saying that mutar letaltel ha'geros. This person is permitted to carry the letter on Shabbos.
But not with the fruits.
It is not considered muktzeh. Why? Not because reading it, because he might find other use for it on Shabbos, like picking something from the garbage, a bookmark, closing the flask, like he mentioned over here.
Not eating the fruits.
No, then you're not allowed to eat the fruits. If they deliver food to you, you're not allowed to. Why you're not allowed to? Because the messenger had you in mind. With a letter, he doesn't have you in mind.